Welcome to Paragraph Writing, a course in how to write a MELCON analytical paragraph. My name is Elissa Jones, and I'm an English 9 teacher at Verona Area High School. This video slideshow will give you an overview of a MELCON paragraph before you use the course to learn more. Right now you might be wondering, what is a MELCON anyway? It's really just a paragraph structure, a lot like the paragraphs you wrote in elementary and middle school. We can use MELCONs for different purposes, especially for persuasive and analytical writing. A MELCON has 4 parts: the M for main idea, the E for evidence, the L for link, and the CON for conclusion. In English 9, the MELCON is most often used for analytical writing. So the M, the main idea, becomes a claim that you try to prove. The E, the evidence, is the supporting details you give to show why your claim is true. In English class, this is usually going to be quotes from a text, and each one will need the speaker and the context. The L, the link, is the explanation of how your evidence supports your main idea claim. And the conclusion, at the end, will wrap up your argument. So that's what a MELCON paragraph is. But how can you understand better what it should be like? What makes a good quality MELCON? A MELCON is like a brick wall or a brick building. It needs to be strong, like you want your argument to be strong and not easily knocked down. Part of its strength will come from the building materials, those 4 components we just went over. And part of it will come from being well structured, not just thrown together. For that to happen, you will need to build your MELCON with a plan in mind. The plan is kind of like the blueprints for a strong, stable building. The evidence is probably the most important part, because it's the building blocks of your argument. In our metaphor, it's like the bricks. The evidence is the main required building material, essential for constructing any kind of argument. Evidence comes from outside of your head. It's the quotes, statistics, and facts you can use to back up your claim. If you don't have any evidence, you don't really have an argument at all, just an opinion. Evidence can also be very versatile. You can use the exact same bricks to make lots of different things, depending on how you use them. The links are like the mortar that holds the bricks together. This is the part of the argument that does come from your own head, where you give your reasons and explanations for how the evidence supports your main idea claim. We say link because this part of the argument explains how your evidence is linked back to the main idea claim, and how the building blocks fit together. Without good links, you might have evidence piled on top of evidence, but it won't form a strong argument. It would be like bricks stacked together with no mortar, ready to fall down at the first push. Just like a skilled bricklayer can make strong, beautiful structures, the link is where your creativity really comes into play. And writing links is a skill that gets better with practice. Don't get sloppy with your links. Some students think more explanation is automatically better, but that can start to be like excess mortar squishing out of the joints and getting messy. What you want is smooth transitions from one piece of evidence to another. After you learn the basics, you probably won't write simple 4-sentence MELCONs very often. Instead, you'll start building bigger paragraphs, MELCONs or MELLCONs, by developing them with several E plus L, evidence plus link, chunks. As you start to write them, the MELCON structure could feel like just a formula or a boring fill-in-the-blanks worksheet. But really, this is your chance to show your own unique ideas about a text. No one else will read it exactly the way you do, and no one else's argument will be quite the same as yours. You design the blueprints and choose what kind of argument to build. We've talked about evidence and links. Now here are just a few words about the main idea. In an analytical MELCON, the M is a main idea claim. It is the main point you want to make about whatever you're analyzing. In our metaphor, it's like the foundation for the brick building. A main idea claim is like a foundation because it is the strong basis for the entire argument. Just like all of the walls of a building have to rest on a foundation, everything in your paragraph needs to connect directly to your main idea claim. You wouldn't want a pile of bricks off to the side, or a chunk of evidence and links that don't really connect. If your main idea is shaky, your entire argument could fall apart. At the other end of the MELCON comes the conclusion, just like in most paragraphs you would write for school. The conclusion caps off the argument and gives it closure. Sometimes MELCONs stand alone, and sometimes they're part of bigger essays. If your MELCON is part of an essay, you can use the conclusion as a transition to change direction to another point. If your MELCON stands alone, the conclusion should give it a polished finish. After you get good at writing one MELCON at a time, you will start putting them together to create longer, more developed essays. In an analytical essay, your MELCONs will become the body paragraphs. Each one will have a main idea claim that will fit together with the others. You'll normally begin with an introduction paragraph and put a conclusion paragraph at the end. The most important part of an analytical essay is the thesis, which is the main idea claim for the entire essay. You can think of it again like the foundation of the building. The thesis comes in the introduction paragraph, which includes some other ideas and pieces of background information that are like the steps leading up to the building. There is no set number of body paragraphs that an essay has to have, but your teacher might give you specific requirements. The more you develop the essay, the stronger and more impressive your argument will be, as long as you're building from good plans. In a more advanced essay, the writer uses the conclusion paragraph to comment on the significance of the thesis, to explain why it matters in the real world, why it's important to a universal theme. The conclusion almost always pulls together the main points and restates the thesis using different words. When all the pieces of your essay fit together, you have a piece of writing with strong structure from the foundation, the thesis, all the way to the pinnacle on top.